So today we're diving into a really wild concept called consensus reality, and at its heart is a piece of tech called the Anchor Protocol. It's a system designed to answer one of the most basic human questions you could possibly ask.
And that question is this: what would you do if you couldn't trust your own senses? I mean, really think about that. What if the world you saw, the things you heard and touched, might not actually be there at all?
You know, for pretty much all of human history, we never had to seriously ask that question. Our senses were, well, they were the ultimate authority on what was real. What you saw was what you got.
There is actually a pretty cool term for this: perceptual sovereignty. It's that built-in, fundamental trust that what our senses are telling us is the truth. It was the bedrock of everything. It was the simple, unspoken rule that, well, your perception was your reality.
And then, that rule was just completely shattered. That foundational trust, the one that had guided humanity for thousands of years, was just gone, obsolete.
So what on earth could do that? Well, it wasn't some philosophical debate that broke reality. It was biology. It was a plague that didn't attack your body, but your very perception of the world. The culprit was something called the Sumnus morpheus neurovirus, and what it did was terrifying. It essentially dissolved the firewall between your conscious and subconscious mind. This led to a condition they called chronic oniric intrusion. Basically, hyperrealistic dreams and hallucinations would just spill over into your waking life, layering themselves right on top of the real world. And this just created this massive crisis. On one side, you've got objective phenomena. You know, the shared, stable world that everyone can see and agree on. But then, on the other side, you've got these subjective intrusions, these intensely personal, unstable hallucinations that feel just as real as anything else. The virus it completely erased the line between the two.
The virus effectively turned every single person into an unreliable narrator of their own life. Can you imagine the chaos, the absolute breakdown of trust, not just with other people, but with your own mind?
Clearly, society just couldn't work like this. It needed a new anchor, a new way to figure out what was real and what wasn't. The solution? It was technological. They basically decided to build reality by committee. And this is it, the Anchor Protocol. Think of it as a massive, planet-wide network designed to do one crucial thing: sort objective reality from subjective hallucination. It's all built on a really simple idea. A hallucination is seen by one person, but reality is seen by many.
Okay, so how does this whole thing actually work? Well, first, everyone who's connected shares a constant, anonymized summary of their sensory input. Then the network is just chugging away 24/7, cross-referencing billions of these data points. Now, if a perception is totally unique to just one person, it gets flagged as a probable hallucination. So reality becomes a consensus score, basically a number based on how many people are seeing the exact same thing.
This changes the game completely. Truth is no longer this absolute thing you experience for yourself. Nope. Now it's a statistical probability, calculated by a machine. You don't know that the dog across the street is real. You know there's a 99.8% network consensus that it is. That's a huge difference.
Of course, a technology this massive doesn't just change your perception, it creates a totally new culture around it. Life on the network wasn't just a tech shift, it fundamentally rewired society itself.
A whole new social habit popped up. People would casually ping the consensus in the middle of a conversation to check if what they were experiencing was real. You know, whoa, did you see that flash of light? Hold on, let me ping. Yep, network confirms. It was a real event. It became as normal as asking someone for the time. And maybe predictably, this created a huge social divide. You had the anchored, the people connected to the network. Their perception is constantly verified, so their testimony is considered fact. They're seen as reliable, integrated members of society. And then, you have the unanchored, the people who refuse to join. Their experiences, dismissed as just stories. They're pushed to the margins, treated with a whole lot of caution and suspicion.
Which brings us to the final and maybe most important question. It's about the trade-off. Society got its balance back, sure, but it came at a pretty profound philosophical cost.
At the end of the day, to survive this plague on perception, civilization had to achieve stability by outsourcing its own sense of reality. The messy, fallible mind of the individual was traded for the cold, hard, statistical certainty of the collective network. And this leaves us with the one question that the consensus itself can never answer. In a world completely run by the Anchor Protocol, Do people actually experience reality? Or do they only get to experience the version of reality the network permits them to see?